What's going on, YouTube? It's Mr. Young, 702, checking in about a video that I really hate to record. The only reason why I'm doing it is because of a new developments, I guess. I really didn't want to record a video about directly responding to or directly speaking about anything that happened in the Trayvon Martin case because I feel like my views on certain things are so common sense sometimes that my views will be taken out of context or something along that line. You know, not to say that I support George Zimmerman being let go. I don't, but I don't think it was racist. You know, I believe a different factor happened in that courtroom that people would have to pay attention to and remove their emotions to happen to see, you know. And I don't think that stand your ground had anything to do with it. So when I see black celebrities who and including Trayvon Martin's mother, you know, who've been, and I believe Trayvon Martin's mother is being pimped by black organizations, to put it, and I hate to use that word, but to put it in no other shape, way, and not to disrespect her, but I have no other way to put it. They pimping her, you know, they putting her um, in these situations where she has to, where she's, you know, at least somebody speaking up for her son, so she says, so she believes. So what it seems like to me, and she's standing there with these people, and they are only trying to further their agenda, and neither one of those agendas, none of those agendas are valid. You got all these people talking about banning the stand your ground law and everything else, and Mary and Stevie Wonder talking about they won't play in Florida again until stand your ground is revoked in Florida. Well, 34 states have a stand your ground law to some degree. Are you not going to perform in 34 of the 16 states of the 50 states, leaving only 16 left in the United States? If you're not planning to do that, don't talk about boycotting and or anything of that nature. And that's the one thing that I feel is so different about blacks today and the fight for civil rights today versus the fight for civil rights in the 60s and 70s is we only fight until it gets uncomfortable. Um, to use an example, I'll compare and contrast. Every year around April, I get an email of someone telling me to boycott big oil for one day and don't buy gas for one whole day. And they call that a boycott. Um, I think it's hilarious because if you still got your gas for the week, whether you got it on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, they still got their gas money for you from you for that week. You know what I'm saying? So in the scheme of them looking at their quarterly um, financial reports, they're not going to see a change. They won't even notice a change in the price of their. By the time the report came out that there was a slump for one day in gas prices, everybody will be back at the pump on Saturday because they didn't get gas on Friday, buying gas, burning out the gas station. So it would look like an anomaly, and then by Sunday, financially, it would have fixed itself. So that boycott does no good. You know, but if you look at the boycotts, the bus boycotts, for example, when they boycotted with as a result of the Rosa Parks being kicked off the bus, they boycotted until they were uncomfortable. Because if they weren't uncomfortable, the people that they were trying to make uncomfortable weren't going to be uncomfortable. You see, they boycotted for months. They went months without paying into the bus system. Not a day. Imagine if they would have went one day and everybody would just hop back on the buses the next day, and everybody who didn't get to go to the grocery store that day just went the next day. It wouldn't have changed anything. The $2 movement, where everybody black paid with $2, they did that for months until it saturated the system. One day doesn't change anything. One day without oil, and then everybody runs to get oil the next day, only proves that we need big oil. So but the point I'm trying to get at with that scenario is the fact that the boycott was pointless because it wasn't done until the fight is over. Soldiers in Iraq sleep in tents and in trenches between army tanks, and where all types of strange stories came out about the sleeping conditions our soldiers were in. Even though they were winning the war, they were just as uncomfortable as the people who were losing the war. Because if you're going to go to war with somebody, war is not comfortable for anybody involved. So you need to be in it for the long haul. And I say that same thing when I look at our black leaders right now when it comes to the Trayvon Martin case. They're not really in it for the long haul. They're not really looking at what they can do to be effective. They just want to do something. And that's fine. Everybody's like, let's do something. But nobody knows what to do. So everybody just did something. And if you don't do something effective, you might as well not do anything. And that's how I see it. Like, what's the point in dumping a bucket of water on a fire, on the whole house is on fire, and dash a bucket of water on and say, hey, I did something, but the fire's still there. You see what I'm saying? It's pointless. But if the time that you wasted dumping that one bucket of water on that fire, if you could have planned out something, or you could have ran in the fire and saved somebody from being in the fire, then you would have been able to say, hey, I tried to get somebody out the fire, even if you would have got killed in the process. That's the difference. And they're not looking. They're looking at what's the most obvious thing we can do. What's the key term that came up? Stand your ground. We'll fight that. We'll fight stand your ground. And that was never the issue. That was never the issue in the Trayvon Martin case. I am going to tell my opinion. I believe that the ultimate decision about the Trayvon Martin case boiled down to the fact that the jury did not take into consideration Trayvon Martin's opinion or Trayvon Martin's feelings. Basically they said it's true that Trayvon Martin, I believe it's true that Trayvon Martin was beating the hell out of George Zimmerman. It's true. So if he was beating the hell out of George Zimmerman, then George Zimmerman had to defend himself from getting beat up. So he had to kill him. So yes, it's self-defense. But in reality, the 5 minutes before that shows that Trayvon Martin ran from George Zimmerman. And then George Zimmerman followed him. Then they got in a fight. Then Trayvon won. And then Zimmerman shot him. That's a different line of events if you play it out, because now it seems as if the victim defended himself, and so the suspect had to, or the killer had to one-up the game. But that doesn't get brought out in court. And that's not the only case it's happened on. If you look at the Sean Bell case from a few years ago, Sean Bell was actually killed by the New York Police Department because they jumped in front of his car with guns out. No badges, no identifiers, nothing. The officers were acquitted because his side of the story wasn't taken for him. They said, hey, the officers pulled a gun out, he didn't stop, they had a right to shoot him. And that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes everything needs to be taken into consideration. One thing is first, all the bullets in Sean Bell's car, from pictures that I've seen, were on one side of the car. That lets me know that Sean Bell was not driving to them, he was driving around them. That's a big difference. He was avoiding people standing in the car in the street with guns. The officers shot because they were trigger happy. End of discussion. But that was the biggest issue about the Trayvon Martin case that was not brung out. If you want another scenario, Preciado Nuno, I actually was on a jury trial for state of Nevada versus Preciado Nuno, an FBI agent who bludgeoned the girl to death with a hammer. And it was, if we looked at it the way the Trayvon Martin case went, we could have said it was self-defense. We could have said that she hit him in the head with a hammer, so he says, because she's dead now, we only have his side of the story. The same with Trayvon Martin, and the same with Sean Bell. The victims are dead. She bludgeoned him in the head with the hammer. He had to defend himself, so he picked up a hammer and bludgeoned her back, and self-defense. He had to defend himself. But when we step back and we really looked at the situation, we find that he knew that she would act crazy. We found out that he knew that she would act stupid. So he brung her, cornered her into a garage, stood in front of the garage entry door, which means that she could not leave the garage, and she couldn't even push the garage door button because his body was in front of the garage. And then he began to tell her that he would take her kids from her, all these other things. And she went crazy, as he predicted she would. He knew the outcome of the situation he stepped into, and he did nothing to de-escalate it. So when it escalated beyond his control and he had to kill her, she died because of his negligence, not because of self-defense. There's a big difference. And I believe that same thing happened with Trayvon Martin and the police of Sean Bales. But our black leaders won't fight that. It takes too much thinking. That's a fight that would take some time. That fight would prove that they sat there and studied and all these other things, and it won't feed the people emotionally, but it will get results. So instead, they're gonna just lose a fight because stand your ground won't be repealed. They'll rather lose a fight than win one that makes sense just to appeal to our emotions. They're no good. That's the ACLU, that's the Urban League, that's Al Sharpton, that's Jesse Jackson, and sadly, because she's become a figurehead for him, that's also Sabrina Fulton. And I feel sorry for her because she's caught in a maze because she just thinks someone's supporting her son and she doesn't even see it. That's a sad shame. Now, what the other result of this was, I got all of these media pages. I follow a lot of conservative pages on Facebook. And the reason why I do this is because really, I'm conservative. To the most part, I'm really conservative. I'm not truly liberal. I don't believe half the crap. Really, I'm not even truly a conservative but I'm like a real moderate, you can say. I don't believe that everything the liberals do is correct, and I don't believe that everything conservatives do is correct. So I don't align myself with either one. But at the same time, I follow them both. I have a lot of liberal things, but the one thing I noticed about the conservative websites is as a result of the Trayvon Martin case, they blamed the Jews, they blamed the media, they blamed all these crazy things, and they were saying, don't let it divide us by race. Oh, don't let it divide us by race. They blamed Obama for saying all these other things. Now that this young man, Christopher Lane, has been killed by a black man, by two black men, these same organizations have popped up and said, why is Obama not saying nothing? You are dividing us by race. At first you said you didn't want to do it. Just think about that for a second. But as a response, what I really wanted this video to be about was my response to the notion that there can even be a comparison from Chris Lane to Trayvon Martin. There cannot be. Christopher Lane is dead. And rest in peace to him. But his killers are also convicted. His killers are in prison right now. His killers did not see the police and walk away the same day. The police did a thorough investigation, caught his killers, and are sending them to jail, and they will stand trial for that. And they've admitted that they have killed him. George Zimmerman denied murder. George Zimmerman claimed self-defense. George Zimmerman, when he claimed self-defense, the Stanton Police Department believed him. So they did a haphazard, half-butt investigation because they figured, little kid died, whatever the case may be, as I probably think I would have, just, reviewing the immediate evidence. That's not saying anything about the Stanton Police Department. It is what it is. So when we look at this Chris Lane case, there are big differences. These three young men are not going to walk. They've already admitted to doing it. George Zimmerman walked away. So for someone to even believe that, someone said, let's riot. For someone even to believe that would be something smart to do, you're a freaking idiot. For you to even believe that those cases are even comparable and the fallout from those cases is comparable, you're an idiot. You need to be slapped in the face, and I'll do it for you if you want me to. But yeah, that's my time, man. First, to black people, pay attention to your leaders. Black leaders really don't have our best intentions in mind. They're only out to get more attention and to get more money. You got to pay Jesse Jackson something like $15,000 or something like that for him to even show up to fight your case. Think about that. He all about his money. His paycheck's been a long time ago. And he's been taking government funding for a while now, which means that he's not going to fight the government fully because he's not going to lose a paycheck. Think about that. They're not your friends like you think they are. That goes for the ACLU, the Urban League, all of them. All of them are tied in with 501c3s. They don't count no more. They don't count because that 501c3 puts stipulations on what you can say, how you can fight, and things you can do. 501c3s even control what churches can do and can't do. Think about that. 501c3s are stopping churches from having schools and churches on the same grounds. That's right. If you have, so they don't count no more. They're not who we think they are. They suck now. We need new leaders. But do we even need leaders? We need people around us who can think for themselves and actually respond accordingly. Shout out to Bone Thugs and Harmony for the video they did, especially Flesh and Bone and Busy, all of them, but especially really Flesh and Bone, though, for the commentary they did on Trayvon Martin. I thought that was awesome. Flesh and Bone kind of gave some what we can do to prevent this from happening again. It was a bit emotional, but it is what it is. And screw you to anybody else who believes that Chris Lane's death is like now black people are playing victim or something. I don't know. But anyway, I'm Mr. Young 702. This is my time. I hope you people be blessed. Have a good one. Write, subscribe, comment, all that other good stuff. Peace.